Hello everyone, Macy Lou here, and before I get started, I just want to mention that I have a Patreon page, and it's at patreon.com/MacyLou. On my Patreon page, I typically talk about behind-the-scenes information, and I usually post on Patreon before I post anywhere else, so you'll typically see things that you either won't see anywhere else, or things that you'll see before other people see them. So don't forget to join if you are so inclined. This video is going to be about pushing yourself and really getting out of your comfort zone with your artwork, or just trying to experiment and push yourself further in general with your artwork, because we all need to do that. If we don't do that, we don't really grow as artists. And so that's what this video is going to be about. So when I first started this piece, I had a resource image I was looking at, and I was kind of just experimenting and thinking like, I didn't know exactly where I was going to go with it. I just knew the basic pose, I knew the basic facial features that I wanted to do and things of that nature, but I just wasn't exactly sure where I was going to take this piece. So, and as you can see right here, I'm painting eyelashes, which it's kind of funny. I changed the eyelashes in this piece so many times, and you'll see that throughout the video. So first, I just want to talk about when people give you criticism and you take it to heart in a negative way. This can make it hard for you to push yourself sometimes with your art, but at the same time, sometimes criticism, if it's constructive, it can actually push you in a really good direction with your art. For example, I showed this piece to my brother, and it was a little further in the process than you see right now, and I wasn't happy with it where it was at, and he explained some things I could do differently. He gave me some tips and advice for lighting and for like the background that I had, which you'll see later in the video, and how that background affects the colors of the face and just all of the lighting in the figure. And that really helped me a lot. It helped me push myself further in the piece. And I think that it's really important that we don't stay stuck in what we're used to doing and stay stuck in our comfort zones, and we actually branch out and try new things. Because if we don't try new things, we don't figure out what works for us and what doesn't work for us. Some things to keep in mind when you are pushing yourself is, you don't have to do it on a canvas. You don't have to do it on a gesso board, which is what I'm using in this video right here. I'm using a gesso board. You don't have to do that. You can take any old piece of paper from like maybe a watercolor sketchbook or something, or just any artist paper, and just put some gesso on it, and then you can use that piece of paper to practice your oil painting skills and techniques and things like that. And you can do the same thing with acrylic. In this video, I'm actually using acrylic paint. I'm using the Liquitex Basics paints and just diluting it with water as I go, and yeah, mixing on a plastic palette. So just so you guys know, like, this is acrylic paint, and yeah, you probably figured that out though. But basically, you can practice on just any old paper as long as you have gesso on it first to give you a good base. So don't forget that you need to be a little bit loose and a little bit flexible if you want to create good art in a way, because if you're so rigid and you're so tight and anxious throughout the process, it's not going to blossom into that beautiful piece that you want it to blossom into. Like, anytime that I painted the lashes, I was finding myself really, really rigid and really, really just kind of stuck in my ways in a way, and just kind of not understanding why it wasn't going the way I wanted to. So here's another rendition of the eyelashes. I think this is the second round of eyelashes that I did on this piece, and as you can see, they're terrible. And just to give myself a critique and just to explain why these eyelashes are all wrong, The first thing I would say is I would not do lashes this dark if you're doing a piece that is this light. So for example, this piece is very light and it's very pastel oriented, and it's just really, it distracts you when you have lashes that dark. So yeah, I would not recommend doing lashes that dark. I mean, unless it's your style, unless it's like a specific reason you're doing it and, you know, that's what you're going for, but I was not going for that. It just kind of, I just couldn't get the lashes right. So the first rendition you saw, the lashes were too, I guess, fluffy, and they were too, I don't know, they just weren't defined. And then these lashes are too defined and too, I don't know, they're too dark. So just keep that in mind. See, I'm painting over them again. Because I was just never satisfied with them. I just couldn't get them to look the way I wanted. So, you know, as I go through this piece, I'm pushing myself to another level and trying to figure out how to get it to look the way I want. And her skin tone changed several times as I went through this piece. So it went from like, she was pretty pasty and pale, and it goes all the way to like a more dark skin tone. And I actually really, really love the way the skin tone turns out. At the end, you'll see what I'm talking about. So, you know, I just ended up kind of like painting over the lashes again, and I just couldn't get them to look the way I wanted. I was being too rigid. I wasn't being loose enough. You know, sometimes you have to loosen up when you paint and just kind of be more free and be more. You kind of need to not care in a way how it's going to turn out. I know that sounds crazy. You definitely want to care about the artwork and care how it's going to turn out, but sometimes you have to not be so hard on yourself. That's probably the best way to put it. Don't be so hard on yourself and force yourself to have it turn out exactly a certain way and just be perfect, because no piece of art is perfect. There's going to be little flaws that maybe only the artist even notices, but an artist typically is their own worst critic, and they notice every little thing that's wrong, more so than anyone looking from the outside. So, as you can see, I kept going with this piece. I kept layering on colors. I kept experimenting with her skin tone, trying to get it the way I wanted it. I was struggling at first. I was struggling for most of the piece, actually, trying to get her skin to look the way I wanted it to look. And this far into the piece, she looked a lot different than the original resource reference photo, which was good. I didn't want it to look that much like the original reference photo. I just wanted the basic pose, and even her facial features are pretty much totally different than the original photo. But yeah, so I just kept going with this, and I was at a certain point where I was like, oh, I think I'm done with this. But she looked too flat. She didn't have enough depth. She didn't have enough dimension to her. And so, like I said a little bit earlier, I showed it to my brother and I said, look, I said, I don't always ask for critique. And I think I need to be a little bit more open to critique. And I need to be a little bit more, I guess I need to ask the right questions. Sometimes you'll get critiques from people and it doesn't really help you because it doesn't explain why they don't like it. It's just, oh, I don't like that. I don't like how you did that. I don't like that you did this or that. But it doesn't explain how to improve. And I think what was great about his criticism was he actually explained to me things I could do to make the piece better, and that had a lot to do with the lighting. It had a lot to do with the colors in the skin. So, and now you see me for the third time trying to do the eyelashes, and in my opinion, completely failing again. The color is a little bit better, but they're too big, they're too fluffy again, and they're too rigid. It's not loose enough. So, of course, as you can probably guess, I paint over them again. In a little bit, you'll see. But, so yeah, so he pushed me further, and I think that was a great thing. Usually, I can get a little sensitive with criticism, to be honest, and I hate to admit that because I have been critiqued so many times for my graphic design career. Like, I have been critiqued in school for graphic design and during my actual graphic design career. So, you know, critique wasn't something that really, it was something that I always, you know, knew. I was always experienced with. Like, I always had critique, no matter where I went or what I did. So critique itself is not a new concept for me. It's just sometimes I'm a little bit sensitive when it comes to critique about my art, but I'm starting to realize that I need to open up more about it, and I think that critique of this piece from a very trusted person helped me to push myself on this piece. And if I hadn't had that extra little push and that extra bit of criticism, constructive criticism, it may not have turned out nearly as good as, if I hadn't gotten that, it probably would not be the piece that it is right now. So, and that's very important. Don't just take advice from just anyone. Make sure that you trust the person and that there's someone that actually has your best interest at heart, someone that you're really close with, that is also maybe even also another creative that is just really kind-hearted deep down, and they really, really have the best intentions, and someone that is either close to your age or older than you. That's just my advice, and I think it can really help a lot, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As you saw, some of my footage wasn't there, and I'm really sorry. I got really focused on the piece and ran out of space on my card and had to just wing it and just keep going once I had space again. And I didn't stop painting, so a lot of that's gone. But hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.